really reached, I think, for that. And I want to touch on that for a little bit right now, actually. Um, so Mark Stein, um, formerly of ESPN, I'm not sure he works there anymore. Um, I don't know which publication he works for now, but he did report just the other day, I think about 3 days ago, that it was either 3 or 4 days ago. Um, the Russell Westbrook trade was engineered pretty much by LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Two guys who were really good friends of Russ. They really engineered that trade because the Lakers were not initially interested in a Russell Westbrook trade, and for a few reasons too. He's a declining superstar player, and he also has probably the worst contract in the NBA, probably in sports at this point right now. Um, so those two reasons were huge on why the Lakers were not interested in the Westbrook trade. I also read something from some insider too. It had to be last year or possibly the year before, right after the bubble. I can't remember who it was from, but it detailed the Rockets when the Lakers faced the Rockets in the second round of the playoffs in the bubble. The Lakers swept. No, they didn't sweep the Rockets. They won. It was a gentleman's sweep, so they won 4-1. And right after the series was over, the Rockets were really bullish on moving Russell Westbrook. They felt like him and James Harden, started off good, but ultimately it didn't really work. So they wanted to move off of him. And I think one of the calls that Houston made was to the Lakers to see if they were interested. And I can't remember who it was. I don't want to misname anybody, but I wish I could remember who the reporter was. But he basically went on to say that Rob Pelinka, he was I don't know if it was courtside, but he was in the arena for all 5 of the Lakers and Rockets game. And he was astonished with how bad Russell Westbrook was playing. So at that point, he was not interested in making a trade for Russ based off of his play that he's seen, with his own eyes. And at that point, I think he still had like 4 years left on his deal, on that big, huge mega deal that he signed with Oklahoma City. So he was not interested in bringing Russell Westbrook on board with the Lakers that year. So basically, Mark Stein, he reported, he pretty much confirmed that it was LeBron James and Anthony Davis who wanted to bring Russell Westbrook to LA. He also reported that there was a trade in the works with the Lakers and the Kings. The Lakers were going to package Kyle Kuzma, and I think a draft pick, maybe a first and a second or something like that for Buddy Hield. And we've seen some reports. We thought it was going to go down, in the summertime. I thought that trade was going to go down, and then the Lakers scrapped it, just out of nowhere, all of a sudden, and they ended up making a deal for Russell Westbrook, and they ended up, giving up some good assets to the Washington Wizards for Westbrook. But that wasn't the initial plan by the Lakers. And I think that part of it really, as a Laker fan, it gives me in the franchise. And basically, as a Laker fan, I got to say that this season, the failures are on the superstars. It's on LeBron. It's on AD for bringing Russell Westbrook in. And I'm a fan of Russell Westbrook. I don't want to like pile on him or kind of go at him or rip him or whatever. Like he is, he's a good guy. He's a good father. He's a good husband. And all that stuff is very, very admirable. But just, speaking strictly in terms of basketball, what he does on the court between the lines, I mean, he's declined at a very, 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 very quick rate, from even just a few years ago. He is not, his style of basketball is not conducive to like winning basketball. He doesn't play championship basketball. So, his his numbers and all that stuff. People I think fell in love with his numbers over the years. And his attitude and the way he plays. He plays hard and all that stuff. People really take to that, and they really like enjoy watching him play, and they enjoy like the everything that comes with watching Russell Westbrook. But it's not conducive to winning basketball. And this wasn't a secret either. Like, everybody knew this. Everybody knew who Russ was. It was part of the reason why Kevin Durant left OKC. He wasn't. He knew that he wasn't going to win the championship with Russell Westbrook, as is too. And I can understand why. He is not. Just watch. And I haven't watched a lot of Laker games this year. This has been disappointing. It's been very, very disappointing. And I really just haven't. I haven't really watched it. I've been really into football, but I will watch more. As the football season winds down. You got the Super Bowl left, so I will be catching some more Laker games. But the games that I've watched this season, man. Russell, he just looks out of sorts, and he does not fit. He does not fit in the type of style that the Lakers want to play. He just does not. Bull in a china shop. I think he still leads the league in turnovers. And I was talking to a friend he's also a Westbrook fan. He's a bigger Westbrook fan than I am, but when you watch a game, when you watch 48 minutes of a Laker game, and Westbrook's having one of his Westbrook games, 12 points, 4 for 20 shooting, 10 turnovers or whatever. That's what the stat sheet says. And yeah, it's not a great shooting game, 12 points. He might have 10 assists or 11 assists or whatever. And you'll see the turnovers is I don't know how many turnovers he's averaging. I think either 7 or 8 or something like that. So let's say he has 7 or 8 turnovers on the stat sheet. When you actually watch the game, when you watch all 48 minutes, and Russ puts in a lot of minutes, he plays big minutes for the Lakers. So when you watch the game, you will see that those 8 turnovers on the box score are really like 15 to 16 turnovers with his shot selection. He's not a good 3-point shooter. He's not even a serviceable 3-point shooter. He should not be taking 3-point shots to begin with. I think he's well below 30% from 3. He takes a lot of threes for a guy that can't shoot threes. And even some of the shots that he comes up, he'll bring the ball up the court and he'll stop for a mid-range jumper and miss it badly and stuff like that. Like those, they don't count as turnovers on the stat sheet, but those are essentially turnovers because the Lakers, they get the ball, they come down. Russ takes a really bad, ill-advised shot that he knows that he can't make. That is essentially a turnover. He's not giving the team a chance to actually score a basket. The percentages are not, they're well below like low. They're almost impossible for the ball to go in the basket at that point. So it's very bad basketball. And I'm not a real, the plus minus stuff, it has a place in basketball, but I don't think it's the end all be all. But Russ, his plus minus has been like ridiculously bad this year. And his usage rate is just so high as well too. And I think that's one of the things too, where people really get into, they fall in love with the numbers. They fall in love with the tenacity and the hustle and all that stuff. But his numbers are terrible. His usage rate is so high. I believe he has the highest usage rate of all time. And usage rate for people that are not, the analytical people, is basically how much you have the ball in your hands. His usage rate is high, very, very high. His plus minus is low. So that means his impact on the floor is a negative to the team. It's not a positive. And he is, I think, also statistically the worst player in the last 5 minutes of a game ever. So you take those 3 things into account. There's no way that Russell Westbrook should be on the Lakers right now, let alone playing in these games. I know it was big news when Vogel Frank Vogel when he benched him. I think it was a couple weeks ago. It was really big news. It made the morning shows the next day and all this stuff. And why is he benching Westbrook and all this stuff? And it's like, are you people watching these games? Like, he's not good in these games. Like, some of the few games that I've watched, I think either 2 or 3 of them, Russell Westbrook shot the Lakers out of the game in the fourth quarter, just taking bad, ill-advised shots, airball threes, driving the ball to the hole too fast and getting offensive fouls, turning the ball over, bad passes, holding the ball too long, like just very, very, very bad basketball in the last 5 minutes, losing basketball. And I know what I'm about to say right now is probably going to shock some people, but Russell Westbrook don't belong in the Hall of Fame. I'm sorry, but he does not belong in the Hall of Fame. I get it. I understand the triple doubles. I understand all of the accolades, and I know he's got MVP and all of this stuff. Russell Westbrook does not belong in the Hall of Fame. He does not. There's no way that he should be in the Hall of Fame being the worst player ever in the last 5 minutes of a game. I don't care what you've done previously in your career. If you cannot play in the last 5 minutes of a game without losing the game, without making losing plays, without, having the wherewithal to, be able to play within yourself, do things that you can do, and not, try to play hero ball and do this and that, you don't belong in the Hall of Fame. And I'm sorry. Now, I know a lot of people are probably going to disagree with me, and that's fine, but he doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame, man. He does not. I don't know what the football equivalent. I guess you would say, you look at somebody like in the NFL. Look at a Josh Allen, like who maybe you could say he's the NFL quarterback version of a Westbrook, right? The way that he plays, he's kind of loose. You kind of have to rein him in, but you don't want to rein him in too much because he's he does have some greatness there or whatever. Imagine Josh Allen if he threw a game-losing interception, 60% of the time in the fourth quarter. But he balled out in the first 3 quarters, and he got a bunch of stats, and he's got 400 yards passing, he's got 3 touchdowns, he's got, a rushing touchdown and all this stuff. But if he throws a game-losing interception 60% of the time in 60% of his games in the regular season, would he make it to the Hall of Fame? I don't think so. There would be no way that he would make it to the Hall of Fame. So I feel the same way about Russell Westbrook. And like I said, I'm not trying to pile on him or whatever, but I'm speaking just strictly what I see between the lines. And there's no, I don't have a bias here because I'm not, I have nothing against Russell Westbrook. He's on the Lakers. I'm been a Laker fan all my life, but I'm just calling it how I see it. And he is not a guy that he's not a guy that should be on this roster right now. So again, you have the blame. Most of the blame has to go on LeBron. It has to go on Anthony Davis.